He wishes he was out here.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, August 7th, 7:05 p.m. Bayer, Briggs,
Here.
Coulter,
Here.
Hydrich,
Here.
Holtmeyer,
Here.
Petke,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Wessels.
Aye.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated July 17th, 2023? Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Hydrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wessels.
Aye.
Need a motion for approval, guys.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Briggs and Coulter, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. Do you have a liquor license renewal?
Make a motion.
Motion by Holtmeyer,
Second.
second by Patke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda passes.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Proclamation, Aging Ahead is Awesome Month.
Do we have a representative from Aging Ahead? Please, everybody come up. Everybody.
Should I go up there?
No, you're not. You're still young.
Well, I don't know about later, but I'm the administrator. Nice to meet you. Your dad comes to our center.
Yeah, he was supposed to be here.
I can agree.
Let me read this and we'll get going. Mayor's Proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri. Aging Ahead is Awesome Month. Whereas Aging Ahead is one of the 10 area agencies on aging in Missouri, which has been providing supportive services in surrounding communities since 1973 and will be celebrating 50 years supporting countless journeys. And whereas the Washington Senior Center joined Aging Ahead, formerly known as the Mid-East Area Agency on Aging, in August of 1984, and whereas their vision is for all individuals to have opportunities to age with honor and dignity. And whereas adults 60 and older count on Aging Ahead to provide nutritious meals, connection to resources, supportive services like Meals on Wheels, community centers, caregiving services, and community options consulting and case management. Now, therefore, I, James D. Hagedorn, Mayor of the City of Washington, do hereby proclaim August of 2023 as Aging Ahead is Awesome Month in the City of Washington and urge all citizens to join in supporting Aging Ahead as we reimagine aging and support individuals through the journey of aging. Thank you.
Police Department reappointment.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, good evening, council. Up for reappointment is Detective Eric Dobelman. He's a veteran officer, doing a great job for us, so I recommend him for reappointment.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Hydrich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Citizens' comments.
Any citizen wants to make
Anybody in the audience would like to make a comment?
on something not on the agenda?
Something not on the agenda? Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
Report of department heads, 911 update.
Good evening, council. I'm just here to update since our last update, which was January. Since then, myself and the other PSAPs in the county have been working together to come up with the most functional option for this project. And since then, we've looked at other vendors, joining other established PSAPs that are on an EZNet and going by ourselves. And of that, we discovered that it would be better to, in fact, stay with Franklin County and all of us have the hosted and virtual PSAP connectivity. We would be saving $50,000 roughly over what we would have if we had gone out on our own. We're also going to be adding the text to 911 and an EZNet within that. So the total for the combined with Franklin County and also Gasconade County joining in will be $289,506, which is about $1,000 less from what we were last time with our numbers with staying with county.
Does this have anything to do with us trying to dispatch our own ambulance or anything?
No.
No.
Okay.
That's a
Completely
separate
separate.
issue. That's something that'll be coming to you at a hopefully sooner date. Or
Yes.
Okay.
pretty soon.
This
Just
is
to establish,
This is
strictly for
the same,
911.
what we discussed at the beginning when the county was looking at trying to go ahead. They
yeah, we were going to,
nullified the agreement that they had with the PSAPs or whatever, and then the idea was, what can we do for the next plan for the next 5 years? That's when we started evaluating whether or not we wanted to go it alone, or was it gonna be cheaper to go ahead and go. With Jennifer, I give her credit, she's worked on this for quite a while, but they also added in a couple of these extra features in the meantime that were not even discussed at that time.
Correct.
The text to 911, for example, and then also adding in Gasconade County is just another entity to go ahead and share in the expenses, so that kind of helps.
And the big thing also with that was the EZNet, which would provide a better service to the citizens with more reliable location, and we'll get better data delivered to us rather than having to transfer, to the correct PSAP. It'll go automatically to the closest PSAP with that.
That's what ESENet does?
Yes.
It-
It's a cloud-based,
it lines up with our equipment and everything, what we have.
yes, well, we would need new equipment. That's what the majority of the cost is.
That's where that
refreshing
cost is-
our
is-
call
Okay.
handling and our service.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I just asked Jennifer, they were at a point where they could go ahead and share this information. I said, well, it's been a while since we've briefed you on the cost of what we're anticipating that agreement to come up to, but I said, go ahead and provide you with some new numbers.
And with that, we do have an opportunity for a grant with the Missouri 911 Services Board, which is $250,000 per county if we are granted that. So we are going to go ahead with that as well, once we get a contract with all of us together and move forward. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Sal's got a thing too.
Okay.
You need that into the minutes?
Excuse me?
You need that proven into the minutes? No?
While Sal's getting that set up, at the previous, probably the last 2 or 3 airport committee meetings, it's been discussed, numbers with regards to hangar rental rates, to go ahead and increase those over at our airport. We looked at those even before the new hangars came up, which that project is about completed. So now more than ever, we'll probably need to go ahead and bring those to your attention. And Sal's got some numbers of what we're looking at for rental rates for at the airport, and this will include the new hangars, the new 8 new hangars as a result of the project over there.
Yep, that's correct. So at our last, well, like Darren said, last 2, but specifically just a couple weeks ago, we met, our airport committee met and discussed, now to kind of being the time to update our existing leases, not only add some more language in there that we feel is needed, but also update the fees to match the market rates. But just a quick overview. So this is kind of our general layout of the hangars now. So obviously we have A, B, and C all have the truck hangars, and the terminal hangars, they are attached to the lobby and terminal. So here, outlined in red, is the D hangars that are going to be closer to the tarmac. You can see we do have 2 larger ones, and then 6 of the standard size here. I'll show that in the reflected price. One of these does say TBD because actually, as we were talking to Kevin last week, there may be, that one is large enough not for a plane but for a helicopter, and so you may be able to get a lease for a helicopter in there, and it won't just be a standard storage lease. We could actually have a user for that space. So I do have a TBD on that until we can confirm. Here is our existing rent rates for the hangars, and then outlined in red is what we're proposing. So basically it is a $25 a month increase across the board, and this was, Kevin got a comparison to a number of airports in the region to kind of show, and this really gets it closer to market rate, and then giving how many people we have on our waiting list, it makes sense to increase that to stay up with, you know, the cost of inflation and CPI and all that. But as you can see here, the A and B small hangars, so on the older 2 buildings, 150, going up to 175. There's some larger ones in that same 2 buildings, 235 to 260. And then C, actually, just because it's a little bit more unique, does have a number of different layouts. So it ranges, you know, it's going to be 195 up to 310 is going to be the new max for the largest hangar in our C building. But with that $25 increase per month, for all of our existing leases, that is a proposed increase of $10,800 a year. And then here are our proposed rates that, again, we'll bring back to you with an official ordinance, and then updates to the lease language as well. You have the square footage here. On here, it matches, you know, these are slightly larger, taller roofs on these D1, D2, so we have that at 350 as kind of the new prime, brand new, larger hangars. And then for the 6 hangars here, that are more matching the C hangars, we have the 310. So it does match the 310 we have on the C. There's not necessarily any new amenities in these. They are new, but that doesn't mean there's amenities in this that isn't offered in the C hangar. They're not climate controlled or anything. The TBDs on here are for the storage. We have not talked yet if that's something we need to hang on to for ourselves for storage, or if we can lease those out and just be an addition to a neighboring hangar that they can have access to for their own storage. That can be in addition to one of those leases as well. And then obviously this TBD at the top here, this 837 square feet. I was out there Thursday and we were watching them kind of finish up with some steel, and we think Kevin has been speaking to someone with a helicopter who it should be able to fit in there, and we can actually get a full lease there as well. But getting out of those TBDs, you still have a proposed increase of $30,720 a year from the new hangars at a minimum, without adding the helicopter or some smaller storage. And so really just a quick summary. So what we'd like to bring to you at your next meeting is, one thing I didn't mention, we are anticipating these to be complete by September 1st. There's some items that KJU is wrapping up, but if we were out there Thursday, the steel's done. I think they're just doing some finishing touches and making sure everything has access and the concrete's done. But we'll have new leases for not only the existing, or for the proposed hangars that are going to be done, but we're going to redo all the leases at that same time to reflect the new prices. And then actually add additional language in there for every lease that states a plane must fly once a year. We've discussed that with our airport committee, and we don't want anyone using this as a storage unit. You know, the idea is you have someone, ideally a business, who's going to be buying gas, you know, doing commerce in our community, but even if it is recreational, we still want the plane to be movable, flyable, coming in and out, possibly buying gas. We don't want anyone just paying that fee basically for a storage unit. So that would be language we would add to that.
Well, to clarify for a storage unit, that could even mean having a plane in there that's been inoperable for several years.
Yes. So, and then set the prices for 310 to 350, and then that proposed additional revenue would bring you about $41,520 a year additional than what we're seeing today.
Sal, do we have a mechanic still out there renting space?
We do not.
Sal, have we checked into climate-controlled hangars and what kind of revenue they bring in?
I have
Is
not.
there any
because
close by?
I'd have to look at some comparisons.
The closest,
have
my
any.
guess, Mark, would probably at Spirit. Yeah, I don't know, there was a brief discussion about that when these were being proposed to be built, but with the cost of, if you'll remember how, how much more they were with inflation and the steel, we just, all discussions
Well,
of climate control.
And from what I remember talking to Spirit when we went and toured them as well, the benefit of climate control is because of certain jets that have to have them. Some of the planes that are in there now don't necessarily need the climate control. And when you get to a jet that needs the climate control, you're building an even bigger hangar. So it's double the cost, it's adding a lot of cost because it needs to be a certain size and it needs to be climate controlled. And we don't necessarily know if we have the demand for that right now. A lot of our corporate users will fly in and fly out.
And isn't it, didn't we have it written in there also, you cannot store cars in
Yes,
hangars
I
too?
think there was something, I don't,
Yeah, I think that's right. It was storage of aircraft.
yeah, you cannot,
I mean, a plane, even if you have a plane sitting in there, you can't have cars in there also, right?
correct, I think, but the main thing you want is to make sure that, like what Sal was saying, adding that language so that, the plane has to go in and out of there once a year, so. That will be something we'll ask Mark to go ahead and add to the new leases. If council's okay with this, we would like to go ahead and bring this ordinance to you at the second meeting in August.
Yep. And then we can start getting the new leases signed, assuming September 1st, if everything still stays on schedule the next few weeks.
Is once a year enough
Once a year.
as far as flying it?
Well, to be honest, I think right now there's only...
Place to start, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a start because it hasn't been an issue. It's kind of preemptive, but I think there has, as of the last year, maybe been one tenant who has not flown their plane. And so this was just a start to say, okay, you got to have it flyable or else you're going to have to vacate.
Yeah, I think there was only one that was posing a problem with this, so, but we don't want that, like I said, we don't want to sit there for 3 or 4 years.
Especially when you have 50 people on a wait list.
Correct.
That's why I was saving even twice a year at least. Because they have to be inspected once a year anyway.
Yeah.
From FAA, so.
How many do we have over there now? 40 or so?
There's 36 now, we're adding 8.
Adding 8?
Yep.
Do we need a motion to send this on, or?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Hopmeyer, second by Patke. Any further discussions or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Ordinances and resolutions, an ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington, Missouri to accept the bid from NOC Technology for the purchase of new servers, configuration, setup, and installation.
Hopmeyer.
Introduced by Hopmeyer.
Good evening, Council. Included in your packet, you have an ordinance for the purchase of 6 servers. This is a server cluster, and basically we're replacing almost all of our servers, every one of them but one that we replaced in the police department, I believe a year or 2 ago. John with NOC is here to answer any questions that you have. But specifically, I sent it out to bid, and they were the only responder, so I did go ahead and try to compare that with Dell and Amazon, and did a reasonable price comparison. Their price does include configuration and installation, and also they offered to give us a trade-in on 3 of those servers for $10,500. We have $175,000 budgeted, so their price came in at around $50,000 under that dollar amount, so.
That's good.
Yeah, which was good, so. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Mhm.
Accept the motion. Oh,
It's an ordinance.
Roll. Second reading.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to accept the bid from NOC Technology for the purchase of new servers, configuration, setup, and installation. Wessels?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Hydrich.
Aye.
By your vote, the ordinance 7A passes. B, please.
An ordinance amending section 220.015, use of municipal landfill of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Whitmire.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
So this, increasing the landfill rates that we discussed in July, proposing that they go into effect October 1st. It's doubling all the existing rates, so $30 per ton goes up to $60 for the minimum fee under a ton, and then $80 per ton over a ton to $160.
Will they get us close to a closure money and transfer station money?
Ideally, it will be, as long as, we get the same amount of
Trash.
users and trash coming in. But we can't really project who's gonna.
Back, it'll lengthen the life of this landfill, so.
It's, yeah, it's,
Yeah, so that's.
it's either, it's a win-win. You either
Right.
lengthen the life of it or
Either way, we should
get your money.
Okay. Sounds good.
Other questions?
An ordinance amending section 220.015, use of a municipal landfill of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Hydrich.
Aye.
By your vote, 7B passes.
An
Seven-
Sorry.
Can I say something first? Gang, this next one was about the short-term rentals. I appreciate, and I think all our councilmen do too, the input everybody who's here tonight has given over the course of way too long. It's time that we made the discussion up here. So we're gonna talk about it. The men up here will ask questions, but I'm not going to open the floor. But thank you for being here and contributing for this process. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending section 400.045, 400.080.d, 400.085.d, 400.095.b, 400.205, and Chapter 400, Attachment I of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Whitmire.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
So I don't have a full presentation or anything. I just, because we've gone through multiple iterations of this, I wanted to put up a summary of what is in the ordinance tonight, and this is based on the motion that was passed to introduce this,
July?
yeah, I think it was the first
I think you
meeting.
had it.
Are we, the only meeting in July, yeah.
We had a motion to go ahead and put this language as it's written today, I think. Back, I think it was in July.
Yep,
So,
and
go ahead.
so it's permitted by right in C1, C2, C2 overlay, and C3. That is existing today. But to continue that, special use permits allowable on R2 overlay with a 150-foot buffer between the uses. Special use permits allowable in all R1 single-family residential zone districts with a 500-foot buffer between uses. And if a short-term rental passes 2 quarters, so basically 6 months, without remitting any tourism tax, it is considered inactive and the permit is revoked. That, I know we talked about that at the previous presentation, and that is how we determined it in staff. That's the easiest way for us to know if a buffer needs to remain or not. If someone goes 6 months without turning in any tourism tax, it's inactive, they lose the status, and then the buffer goes away.
And they would have to reapply for a special use permit.
Yes, correct.
Just kick it off real quick, and I'll try not to be too repetitive. We've been through this a number of times. But as you recall, actually, I believe it was in June when we
Was it June?
did this, but, yeah, but we had sent the whole issue over to P&Z, and they deliberated for, 2 or 3 months, I think, worked very hard, came up with a new procedure for us, And we went through that whole thing, and for the most part anyway, we were in total agreement. One issue, and I did bring that up, the one issue I thought, and I didn't want to send it back to them because they had worked hard. And so in talking about it with people, we thought, well, maybe the simplest thing would be a simple, quick amendment to what they forwarded to us. And that's what you see concerning the R1. And my logic there was every owner of every home in our city could do this. They could file for a special use permit, doesn't matter where you live, what zone you were in, or anything else, could always do this. Had to go through the special use permit procedure and so forth. And so when we put this thing together and it came out, all of those things were considered, except in the case of R1, it was not allowed anymore. So they weren't given that option. And they could still, which I find a little bit confusing, they could still rent their place for 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, but not for a month, even though everyone else could. So I didn't understand that behind that. So that's why I came up with this idea, okay, I think the R1 people, they would have to go through the same process as everyone else. And one change, though, was the 500-foot buffer, just because the R1 lots are typically a little bit larger. And so, a little more space in between them. But that was the idea of the amendment that we put forth, I believe it was in June. And then so now we're coming back to see whether or not we're ready to finalize. But that was the issue.
Sal, if this passes the 500-foot buffer for R1, how does that limit those neighbors who would be notified of a special use permit? Meaning 180 feet from your property line?
185 feet.
Well, we still notify 185 feet,
Right.
any special use permit. We send a letter to everyone within 185 feet. The 500-foot buffer would measure the same way from property line. That would just be for if your neighbor wants to apply, they have to be further than 500 feet away from your property line.
Okay, I understand that. I guess my point is that if you're in you have a large lot in Lake Washington, Stonecrest, wherever it may be, in that R1 district, the number of neighbors within 185 feet are less. And our special use permit states if you have 33% or 1/3 of your neighbors who oppose it, then it has to be a supermajority vote. Is that correct?
I believe so with Mark. I think that's rezonings and special use permits, but.
Let those guys
Yeah.
finish talking.
Rezoning, right.
I know it's for rezoning. I've never had one submitted on the special use permit, but
So,
I think it qualifies.
I guess where I'm going at is this: if you're downtown and you're asking, and you have 6 neighbors within 185 feet, and they all get a letter. If you're in a larger lot somewhere else in a subdivision and you only have 3, only one neighbor needs to disagree with it, and you're going to have a supermajority to pass that. Is that a fair statement?
I
No,
don't think so.
no. Are you talking about the 30% or more of the people that
Yes.
receive? That's for rezonings.
That's not.
That is not for
use permit.
special use permit.
That's
Okay.
What that's what I wanted Mark to confirm. We've never had one submitted for special use.
It's just for
So it's only for
rezonings.
rezonings.
That's correct. That
Okay.
only applies to rezoning.
So do you see any hindrance in the fact that 185 feet of a property line will be notified, but 500 feet will be the buffer? So it'll overtake more than what will be notified. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
We're talking about 2 different things, I get that, but
Yeah.
you see any detrimental to that?
not really. You're still going to notify everybody within 185 feet, but if they come in and submit it, and really even before it gets to that point, if they submit their application with Sal and he sees on the map that, wait a minute, there's one that's 200 feet away, it's not even going to go out to the neighbors
Yeah.
because it's not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't even be able to apply.
The notification won't even need to go out because it doesn't meet the
Now, I will say, what you have, and this is what we talked about with Mark in this, with we added the language at the end, because I think it's gonna be, it's gonna be up to staff to go ahead and determine who has filed those reports for the bed tax. And, so if somebody gets on and they don't do their filing, they don't do their reporting, they're considered just like every other home. And you may have a situation where somebody wants their residence, they've been waiting And maybe then they come in and apply because somebody didn't file their reports. And now they're within that, you know, it's like maybe that distance, you know, prohibited them from even applying before, now they'll be able to. So that's why we've got that also in the language in here, because you got, I mean, how else are you gonna know what's active and what's not active?
Okay, so that brings me to my exact next question was going to be, I own a bed and breakfast now, and someone 250 feet away wants to, and they're not allowed to.
Correct.
I don't pay my bed tax for 6 months. Now I lose my special use permit. That neighbor 250 feet away is now entitled
To apply.
to apply.
Correct.
But in the meantime, if I've already had I lost my right, so now I'm behind that person in a special.
That's
use.
right.
Correct?
Correct.
So no one's grandfathered in. When they lose it, they lose it. And if someone builds one within 500 feet, they can't reapply.
Correct.
What happens if?
I understand it all. I'm just making sure that we're gonna run into that. We're
And
gonna
you
run
may-
into someone who's had one for 10 years and they had no one staying there. They're renovating and no one stayed there and they didn't pay their bed tax for 6 months.
Well, they just have to report it. They just have to report it. Could be zero, but they've got to report it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if someone is renovating and they're not going to have any renters, they just have to, it's remitting the bed tax form. But you can put, I didn't have any renters, but you have to actually come in or send that to City Hall and be active.
And you're still considered active. You don't
Correct.
I have no renters in 6 months. I have no contribution to the bed tax, but I resubmit my form, so now I'm still considered a
Yep.
bed and breakfast or Airbnb.
But if you choose not to go ahead and file the report for 2 consecutive quarters, that's what kicks you out.
The reason being is that we have people going back and forth between short-term and long-term. And if you're going to switch from, if you're going to say this year, I'm going to go ahead and go to long-term for a year, you're going to lose your status. And that's just going to be part of doing business as a short-term renter.
No,
You're
I agree with it. I just want to make sure that we're gonna get to that at some point, and we're gonna be the
Yep.
judge and jury again on who gets to stay. And none of us up here want to sit here and be the judge and jury on who should have a short-term rental or not.
Right.
And that's the whole point of having this moratorium, planning and zoning, to go through the homework they did and what is brought to us now.
Yep, and
So-
that'll be as well, that luckily we have that software as well that can help us track that to see who's
Active.
active and saying, if they're not, well, it goes both ways. We have people not remitting any taxes or coming into zoning, and Granicus is finding them online and saying, no, they're pretty obviously active. And so now we can send them letters and say, you either have to come into compliance or stop. But same way, we can use that information to determine if someone's even paying their bed tax.
You know, one of the things too that's come up, and I know many of us heard from Mr. McFatridge concerning, and he was very interested in wondering about the idea of some sort of a cap, setting some sort of a cap. And I understand that, and we know some neighboring communities who are dealing with that a little bit more critically than I think we are. And I wouldn't have a problem with that maybe down the road or something. I don't think we're there right now. We have over 6,000 households. The numbers we got are you're looking at well under 1%.
Yeah,
Well
if
under.
you looked at the neighboring communities that have caps, we weren't even close to getting there.
Exactly.
And
And-
that was
and
where
we
P&Z
may-
decided the buffer was better.
We may get there, and if we get there, well, then so be it. We'll have to look at a cap. But I think it's premature right now.
The other issue I have is that we've went through this whole entire process because it started on one in particular property, and we're not fixing that problem. We still, by passing this tonight, we're allowing that to happen, for that person to submit their special use permit and the neighbors to come back and argue that it shouldn't be allowed. We haven't fixed the problem we started with in the beginning.
Well, I thought about that a lot, Jeff, but I think what happens is the same thing that happened last time. If enough people protest, as they did last time, then it was turned down. It was turned down. And I guess that could happen anytime. That could happen in any zone. It doesn't have to be R1. It could be any zone. So I think that issue is another one that'll always be there, that if you get enough people protesting, then this group or P&Z or both have to decide, yes, approve, or no, we don't think we're going to approve it because of that.
Right. I just want to state the fact that we've went through this whole moratorium, and we've went through a 6-month process, and next month we'll have the same problem we had
You could.
in February.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, again,
That's why
I'm not
Pete-
against what we're looking at here, but the blind side is that we haven't fixed anything, that's all.
Well, the planning and zoning, that's why the Planning and Zoning Commission just limited it to R2 overlay. They felt that those are the neighborhoods in and around the downtown area. They didn't want to open it up to R1.
Right. That's
This
what the planning and
discussion up
zoning
here
is. Right.
opened that up, so, just to make sure.
Well, and the revocation thing came in too.
That's-
That could help.
Yeah, we didn't have that before, that last bullet point.
That is true.
That if any special use permit, including short-term rentals, started to become a nuisance or, violating,
Violating the conditions that they were,
yeah, then, city council can
Approved
vote to
under.
revoke that ordinance.
Say that again?
you can revoke, you now passed an ordinance within that 6-month window that makes, that allows special use permits to be revoked if the applicants aren't meeting the conditions
Oh,
that the
right,
council set
okay.
forth. That's been done since this moratorium.
Right.
I think is the case, what they're trying to say.
I thought you stated it some other way, sorry.
Other questions, points? Okay, go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending section 400.045, 400.080.d, 400.085.d, 400.095.b, 400.205 in Chapter 400, Attachment I of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Coulter?
Aye.
Patke?
Nay.
Briggs?
No.
Hydrich?
Nay.
Need 5, don't we?
Don't have it.
Okay,
4-3.
motion fails.
Question would be, if we, so that we can move forward with this, we anticipated that we might have this situation. Is there enough, are there 5 votes that would allow the ordinance, say, for example, to go with Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation?
With R1 out.
With R1 completely out of the picture, just R2?
Here, I can highlight this. You would be,
C2, Jeff.
Yeah, C2 is just,
I'm
oh.
saying, I see 2 saying yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Jeff and Chet are.
Do I have to nod yes or no if I'm going to vote
No,
that way?
Just,
but
there's no point in bringing it back if it's not going to make any difference.
I guess what we need right now is that if there's, I at least see 2 people nodding, so if somebody can make a motion to approve what Planning and Zoning Commission recommended, which is the R2 overlay, there you go. You just remove what's highlighted. The special use permits would not be allowed in R1 single-family residential zone districts, regardless if there's 500 feet or not. You're allowing it in R2, you're with a special use permit and a 150-foot buffer. You're allowing it, it's permitted by right in C1, C2, C3, all those that we said before. I would also say that you probably want to keep in the language that Mark had about revoke, missing 2 periods of reporting. But the only thing you're striking out would be that portion that you see highlighted.
I will say this, that was my goal from the beginning. The Planning and Zoning Commission, and when the mayor was out, I sat in on 2 of those meetings and witnessed the work that they put in to that, and that was their recommendation, not against what Mr. Wessels had said and introduced this to be in there, but it was without an R1, and it was a working document. It was working to see if we're able to do this, and it is enough. So that's why my nay vote tonight, and I will nod yes to approving without the 500-foot buffer, to play my card, Mark, thank you very much, because of that reason. Because mainly, for me, it's respect out of Planning and Zoning Commission and the 4 months that they spent doing it, and their recommendation to us, and the ability for us to have it as a living document. If it's not enough, and we have an issue in a year from now, or whatever it may be, we can go back from there.
Yeah, because when I was on planning and zoning, we were already started talking about it, started to get the wheels rolling on it. So that's the reason as well. With that out, that's why I was voting against it. Or be for it if that's out.
What do they need, Mark? A motion to
I'll make the motion to
remove R1?
10-4.
Yes.
Yes, sir. But keep the same language like you're saying about the.
Everything
head
else.
tax and, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion by Hydrich to remove the yellow.
I'll second it.
Second by Briggs. Any more discussion before we vote?
Do we need a roll call now, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Wessels,
Nay.
Holtmeyer,
Nay.
Reed,
I'm confused. Say it again.
You are, this ordinance would remove what you see highlighted. It would, if you vote in favor of this, you will not be allowed to apply for a special use permit in any area zoned R1 single family. But everything else would remain the same.
Basically.
You'd have a 150-foot buffer zone in R2 overlay, and in R2, you'd be able to request a special use permit.
So I guess what started all of this, the special use permit on wherever it was.
Riverview.
Riverview would not be allowed if this would pass.
Correct.
Without the R1. Any R1.
Doesn't have anything to do with that. That permit already went through, but all future permits
Right.
for an area zoned R1, they would not be able to go ahead and even apply.
I'm for this, as far as taking out the,
Taking the R1 out? Okay.
So that's a yes.
So
That's a yes.
yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Patke,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Hydrich.
Aye.
There you go.
Motion passes. 7D, please.
An ordinance of the City of Washington, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose the potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Holtmeyer.
This is your annual ordinance that you have to go ahead and pass for.
That didn't change, did it?
That has not changed.
Questions? Discussion? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance of the City of Washington, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials. Wessels,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Coulter,
Yes.
Patke,
Aye.
Briggs,
Yes.
Hydrich.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor's report.
Fair's over. I'd like to thank the workers, especially the policemen, dispatch, EMS, fire, fair board especially, and all the volunteers. I see a lot of volunteers in this room right now. So that's our showcase event for our community, you guys. And yeah, we got lucky on Friday night with the weather, but we pulled it off again, and it's just a darn testament to a lot of hard work by our folks. So thanks to all those. And I promised a family in town that I would say something about Mr. Ott Jasper. I don't know if you all know Ott. He's 103 years old. He is the oldest surviving veteran in the county. He served in 1942 to 1945 as an Army tank commander. Landed on D-Day at Normandy. Yeah. And he kept going. He missed the Battle of the Bulge, thank God, because he was injured and earned one of his first Purple Hearts when he got shot in the foot. Kept going. Made it to the end of the war, but not before somehow he had a head injury, second Purple Heart. And he's had 7 children, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Still lives in the area. He was in the parade the other day, and he's this little old guy who just has the heart of gold. And today is Purple Heart Day. And I wanted to get something done, but through circumstances beyond anybody's control, it'll be in 2 weeks from today. So if you guys want to see and meet somebody who's really special to our community, show up tonight 2 weeks in advance, because Otto'll be here, and we'll have a proclamation for him. So, yes, sir.
And one clarification on that, sir.
Please.
World War II veteran, this is Judge Emil Portner in Union, but he does not have a Purple Heart.
Golly, thank you.
He's a year over.
Another treasure. All right. Well, thank you, guys. That's all I have.
City Administrator's report.
No report, other than we'll work on what we discussed in the workshop with the budget. We'll try to get something back to you at the next meeting. We will have another workshop at 6 o'clock prior to the council meeting. I think it works best for us to go ahead and have those in advance. But open to the public. We'll have other questions about, we'll also have information with regards to sewer rates as well, much more detail than that. So, that's all I have.
Council comments.
Yeah, just one comment on the iPad, the exposition things. There's no way you could read that.
Gotcha.
So we just need to make sure we see it in an iPad, make sure we can read it, because all of them, I couldn't read any of them, so.
Are you talking about that table that was attached
Yeah.
to the ordinance? Yeah, I know. Mark called me up and said the same thing.
I thought it was me, Joe.
We just thought it was Mark, but now that you're bringing it up too. well.
Oh, not even glasses can fix that.
We do have a link. Next time, we'll make sure you get a link to the one online that you can zoom in easier. It's like its own PDF.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
something,
we'll keep that in mind.
something besides that, what that was.
Just to piggyback off what the mayor said, I mean, Mr. Jasper was recognized on stage on Saturday night at the fair. It was quite a scene, no doubt. True, a true community man, for no doubt there. And again, I just got to mirror what the mayor said about the fair. When the rain comes and gives the fair board, throws all the curveballs, it's amazing how things get done out there. There's no doubt about that. And the amount of people, you know, now we can sit back and discuss, was it 25,000? Was it 35,000 people there on Friday night? And to the chief and the way things went, I try to ask questions, and really no major incidents from what I heard. So that's a testament to what goes on in our community, and we can have those people here. At the same time as the fair going on, I was actually in Alabama with the Legion baseball team. Happy to say we won 2 and lost 2 in the regional in Pelham, Alabama. So your Washington AAA Legion team was their state champions and represented well in Pelham, Alabama. They know who Washington is now in Alabama. A lot of the guys down there, spoken to a lot of Legion people, very hospitable. What they had us there, what a great experience. I'm sure glad I went. Absolutely thrilled that my son was able to be a part of that and the rest of the team. We also learned what we need to do for next year, because that tournament that we went to this last week in Alabama will be here in Washington 1 year from now during the fair. So logistically, we have a lot of work to do. So those volunteers, don't stop volunteering, because we're going to need a lot of help next year. So again, from the Legion program, I know we'd love to have them here in a resolution, but they're not going to, a lot of those guys are going to college and things like that, so it's not going to work to have them here. But again, thanks for all the support, and they represented Washington well while there. Thank you.
Jeff, you did a good job on the radio, too.
A face for radio, Dwayne. Thanks.
Just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.